In the name of God, emotional intelligence. Today's topic is how to use emotional intelligence and the importance of emotional intelligence. Look, brothers, we have explained that the definition of emotional intelligence is that you will develop the intellectual rational capacity so that your emotions, your enthusiasms, and your motivations are directed by your intellect, by your rationality. So instead of letting emotions lead you to make a hasty decision, your intellect will carefully and thoughtfully take the helm and steer the ship of your life towards intellectual decisions. Very well. You, son. Today we are going to look at some important examples of the topic. One of the necessary things in our life is to correct our behaviors and those of others. Many times, the people around us have flaws, make mistakes, and have defects. So how are we going to correct them? Or how are we going to express our disagreement with the bad attitude they have? In the example of a couple, if the man does not attend to his responsibilities, or if the woman does the same, how do they express their disagreement? Are they going to express themselves emotionally once? What does that mean? When we are hurt, when negative emotions dominate us, we are not in a good mood, we are feeling terrible. When we start to imagine and think about the root of the problem, we will see that my partner is the root of the problem due to their bad attitude, their bad behavior, etc. And maybe we are right, maybe it could be, but how is our expression? How are we going to express our disagreement to correct our husband, our wife, our child, our co-worker, our teacher? Once we have accumulated and held on to resentment for a while, then when we want to talk, we will open our mouths to vent. When you want to unload emotionally, the words you are going to use will be strong words. It is a form of revenge, meaning you are getting back at that person. 2001. When you want to take revenge on someone, what you aim to do is destroy their personality. So when you start talking, you will completely destroy them. For example, you are going to tell your husband, "You are good for nothing. You are not a good man. You never pay attention to me at all. Just absolute negativity. Everything is for nothing. Never ever. You have never loved me. You have never been kind to my mother. You have never been supportive. You never want to do a lot of things for me. You have never taken me to the market. You never pay. You never bring enough money for the house." So with this, we can say literature with those bitter, strong, destructive words use and destroys a person's personality. What would be the reaction of a person whose personality you have killed, whom you have completely destroyed? How are you going to demand that person to react? How do you imagine that person will react? Of course, that person is also going to react in a very violent, very strong way. He is going to respond to you in the same way, starting to destroy you and your staff. Who are you for me to serve you? You are a woman just like that. And you have had this experience, you have had this past. You are so and so, you are this, you are that. It means that both are behind machine guns. And when they start to enter the war, a fierce, bloody confrontation. The woman with rockets and the man with gunfire. And so they begin by throwing arrows and spears. And in the end, where are we going to end up? To a disagreement, the deeper hatred, and what do you lose? What you have sought. You supposedly have talked to your husband, to your wife, to improve the situation, that you have been in a bad situation, to bring your life situation to a better one, assuming that you are improving your situation. But what you have done is rage, to unleash your anger, to release your negative feelings. And what you have achieved has destroyed you. You reacted in a bitter way, and the least you have managed to do is reach an agreement. Therefore, unloading emotions to reach an agreement is false. It is not going to work. It is a total failure. It is a waste of time, resources, and losing love. Why do many couples end up getting divorced? Why do many co-workers separate after a while? For that reason. And these expressions will drain a lot of energy and are also negative. They transmit negative energy, shouting and arguing. Do you see it? How many times does this happen in our lives? And after what has happened, you are going to study what you have done, and you have lost everything. But wait, brother, wait, sister. If you, instead of leaving the helm of decisions in the hands of emotions, take the helm and hand it over to your intellect, the intellect says, first step, if I want to correct the bad attitudes of my partner, of my usand, of my students, of my wife, of my husband, of anyone, then I will study why this person has made this mistake, why this person has that bad attitude. It goes to the roots of bad attitude. For example, my husband is always late. My wife doesn't cook. I don't know how it is. So, he is going to study why this has happened and will sit down with this person, listening to them with great respect. He says, "Dear darling, love, why is this happening? I want to listen to you. I want you to explain it to me before I judge, before I attack, before I go after your machine gun and kill it. No, no. 2001. First, you are going to sit down and listen." That is what your intellect says. Listen. Let it express itself. So, your brother, your husband, your mother, your child are not your enemies. They are not your rivals to be destroyed. If you want to live with them, you need to take the initiative and let the intellect take the helm. So you are going to sit and listen patiently. Then you are going to listen for what? For a purpose, to get to the root of the problem. If your daughter does not want to behave appropriately or wants to go out in indecent clothing, and this bothers you, your husband, when he sees a woman, will completely change his behavior and attitude. If suddenly he is going to be like a person who wants to conquer other women and this bothers you, then sit down with him, listen to him. "Dear husband, what is happening to you? Please, I want you to explain it to me." You listen to him, study it until you get to the root of the problem. When you once get to the root of this problem or the roots of problems, because you know that human behaviors are very complicated, composed of many crossed motives, then from these crossed motives, crossed motivations, a decision will emerge, an attitude will emerge. The human being is not a basic being, a simple being, no. The human being is very complicated. Many factors are related to your decision and your behavior. Perhaps we have been mistaken in what we have judged. Maybe it was not what we saw. And that, when we give this person the opportunity to be heard, then we will understand what has really happened. Once this happens, instead of venting, instead of going to destroy his personality, let him come and attack us again. Instead of all these bad attitudes on our part, instead of emotionally unloading, when we are worried, feeling that we have been betrayed, feeling betrayed, etc. Instead of falling into emotions, we allow that person, my employee, I don't know, my secretary, my student, to speak to me, and we listen to them attentively, without prejudice, without bias, and then we will reach conclusions. Can we even consider your own proposal? Look, dear, what would the solution be? What do you think? In that case, what would you say? And that is like a direct behavior. And many times the intellect says to stop, because that topic is quite, we can say, complicated. It's better not to address it directly, but rather to start with an indirect behavior, a treatment to heal, to solve that problem. Many times, an indirect word in the relationship is worth more than 1,000 direct words. What does an indirect word mean? Many times, for example, you might consult about a case of a friend of mine who has gone through that. So you invent a story and start asking your husband how you would help my friend. Why is your husband doing this? Without attacking your husband or his personality, you lead him to think about the same problem you are suffering from. Create a story. How could you give advice, you who are a wise man? In the case of my sister and my friend, I don't know, so and this has happened to him. How could you help with this problem? So that person will take an active role in solving the problem, and you have not destroyed their personality. Rather, you have helped them develop their ideas and opinions, focusing on the problem to reach a solution. Because many times, what we consider a problem is not a problem for many people, and what is causing us pain may not matter to them. So through this conversation, through that dialogue, we will help you better understand the situation. Once that person understands the situation and knows what is happening, then they can feel as we are feeling, then they can understand what we understand, and from there we will reach a conclusion. Well, finishing that part, we have two ways to correct people's bad attitudes through emotional intelligence. We control emotions, leaving the steering wheel in the hands of intellect, studying the topic, and then going to the root of the problem without attacking the person. And on the other hand, what often happens is that we let our nature take over, and we end up falling into a dead-end current that leads us to make hasty emotional decisions, to vent our anger, to destroy their personality. And from there, venting our anger becomes a form of revenge. When we attack his personality, he comes to attack us, and then we lose everything. There are many examples if you want to delve into this matter. Think about it in your life, today's task. Think, play a role. Think about the last time you were angry with someone and shouted at them loudly, challenged them. Why did you do it? And I ask you, have you, in that situation, let your anger decide for you? Have you left the helm in the hands of your emotions? Have you destroyed the personality of your child, your husband, your wife? Have you attacked him or made an intellectual decision? Think about it. That requires practice. We will continue the topic of emotional intelligence in the next class. Are you going to go out with the cheap gematological